to A Couple Reviews, where we, a couple, review a couple of movies. I'm Anand and...
I'm Samantha.
This is her first time on the channel, my one and only fiance, or so she thinks.
It's getting cut out. Yeah, so I'm Anand's fiance. I typically go to the movies with him, but this is my first time giving a review.
Yeah, and today we are talking about Barbenheimer, or Barbie and Oppenheimer for anyone who hasn't been on the internet for like the past 2 weeks.
You've been hiding under a rock.
Yeah. You know, maybe we should start off with the Barbenheimer effect, because this is a pretty cool event in cinema where often Hollywood would like try to release two types of movies that are the same type on the same weekend, like A Bug's Life and Ants, or like The Illusionist and The Prestige, if you've seen those.
No, I mean, obviously I've seen Bug's Life. It's one of my favorite Disney rides.
Yeah.
But, and Ants, that was a little scary to me as a child. But I didn't know that they did that often. Is that a thing in the industry that you release?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it, because this definitely did not happen this weekend. They were very different genres.
Yeah, so they call them twin releases or twin movies, where they'll release movies of similar plot and type on the same weekend to compete against each other. And fun fact about this one, so, you know, Christopher Nolan used to work with Warner Bros. All the time. Warner Bros. Released Barbie. So Christopher Nolan broke away from Warner Bros. Because he doesn't want to move towards streaming. So because of that, he went to Universal. So Warner Bros. Decided to release Barbie as a like fuck you sort of to get back at it, but little did they know like it was actually like feeding into each other. Like more people are probably gonna watch more movies because of it, but it's a cool effect.
Yeah, I think so many people are doing double features going at the same time, and they've already done really well. I think they've said this is gonna be the best in a couple years. I think that's a little unfair though with COVID, but.
I mean, that's a way to get people back in theaters.
Yeah. I hope this changes the industry, and we see more people in theaters. We don't go to movies all the time, but often we're one of the few people in there. So I'll be excited to see more people going out.
These movies are not big franchise sequels. Like, they're not another Marvel movie. They're not another DC movie, and the superhero is not a sequel. You can come into Barbie or Oppenheimer as a fresh viewer to both and not have any history with anything and enjoy both, which is rare nowadays, especially for both movies on the same weekend.
Yeah. It's nice for people like me as peasants with movies that not having to know a ton of background or knowledge to go see something, and I really felt both movies I was able to watch them and understand everything and not feel lost. It's
really awesome to see directors like Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig, who are pretty, well known. I mean, Nolan more than Greta Gerwig, but they're both respected auteurs who have influence in the industry. And with that influence, they decide to create passionate projects that they care about instead of making the biggest tentpole franchise in the machine.
It's too much homework. Nobody gets homework.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, right? Like, you don't like coming to the Marvel MCU movies in DC, and not in a bad way, just because you didn't.
Yeah, now I'm canceled by Marvel. Thank
you. Yeah, exactly. Well, and this video is demonetized. No, we're not even. But we saw Barbie first on Thursday in RPX, which was a great experience. So. Maybe I'm just curious. Do you have any history with Greta Gerwig, the director?
I don't think I've seen Lady Bird. That's all that I know her for.
Okay, yeah. I mean, she's directed 2 or 3 movies. I've only seen Lady Bird. I haven't seen Little Women or Nights and Weekends.
Actually, no, I have seen Lady Bird. It's the one where she goes to college, right?
Yeah, Sacramento.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so I
like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a great coming of age story. A lot about the female experience, but also like a location and time and place, feeling nostalgic for it, which I think a lot of that translates here. If you're a Barbie fan, and I'm not, but certainly at the theater there was a ton of people wearing like Barbie stuff, which is really cool to see. It
was awesome. Real fast on the Lady Bird, it did remind me of Licorice Pizza, which I think both of those helped feed into Barbie. With the stylish throwbacks, and I did notice nostalgia. I mean, that's been a big theme in like popularity, like nostalgia. Everyone's been leaning into nostalgia, and I honestly cried at some of the opening of Barbie because it was just so nostalgia for me and cool to see and really familiar. And I grew up playing with tons of Barbies, and the what they referenced with the different Barbies and the weird Barbie, and it was cool to see that I've had all of that. I mean, shout out to my little sister for making me have multiple weird Barbies. A big focus of it too with the nostalgia aspect was like really showing little girls that Barbie can do anything, and that, you know, seeing a female do that, you can also do it. I know there's the contrast to it with unrealistic expectations with Barbie, but I leaned more into the nostalgia side.
So this is easily Greta Gerwig's biggest movie. Spoiler free, obviously, right now. You know, this movie is about Barbie, the doll you might have heard of before. And essentially, in this universe, there's a Barbie-verse, and she somehow gets involved with the real world. And there she has to come to grips with, like, okay, what is Barbie as an ideal versus, like, our fucking world? You know, there's a big difference between the two. That's all I really want to say, because that's what really the trailers kind of give away without going too much into it. But it tackles a lot of multiple themes. Like, on the surface, it's just like a person, a fish out of water story where it's like, oh, I'm not used to this world. But what did you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that definitely was highlighted in Barbie. Also, the figuring out who you are and your life journey and going through different things and different experiences, and not just doing, you know, that should that everyone feels, that internal,
like, identity and societal expectations, for sure.
Yeah, that's a big other plot with not just Barbie but other Barbies and dolls.
I mean, the one thing about the movie too is that this is it's funded by Mattel, like the actual company that made Barbie. So this could have either been like a huge whitewashed commercial, like, hey, Barbie's the best and there's nothing else there is, but like they went under the surface with this movie. They definitely addressed, like, is Barbie actually beneficial for society? Like, does it do more harm for the image of women, or did it help? They addressed that, and that's kind of risky for a movie funded by the company that wants you to buy more shit, you know.
I think they addressed it, but I mean, there was a lot more focus on the positive side, in my opinion, of Barbie. You know, they did address it, but it still had the funding by Mattel. It didn't totally go away from that, in my opinion.
But like, compared to like a Transformers movie, right? Like, that's just like the toy commercial pretty much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, this is like, you know, but I see your point too. It's not like a full deconstruction, but at the same time, it's like kids are watching this and they probably want to have fun with Barbie, and at the end of the day, like, it's like, you know, very influential. And
well, and so many of the Barbies too are old. Like, before I was even playing with Barbies, those came out and were already taken off the shelves. So it really leaned into that nostalgia, not only for like younger generations but older too. And it wasn't as much, I viewed, as a ploy to sell toys, because a lot of the toys referenced like aren't available anymore at all. And some of them I think all of them have been available at some point.
So what was your favorite part? What were your highlights of the movie?
Favorite parts of the Barbie movie was the world building. I think that leaned heavily into my nostalgia once again, and also
like the production, right? Like, for example, like the opening dollhouse. Like you told me after, like, this was real. Like, this was actually how the dollhouse was. Like, I wouldn't get that type of nuance. So that's really cool. The attention to detail. Like, Greta Gerwig's clearly a huge Barbie fan, and me not as a fan, I can feel that energy.
Yeah. Well, and also in the world, how the Barbie world, they had some stickers and some real items that was totally dollhouse style, that, you know, and then like the review mirrors having just like Barbie icons, the radio having like Ken Station, all of that. So that was really cool. And another highlight for me,
the vintage
aspects. Another big highlight for me too was all the music. The music, I like wanted to get up and dance in my chair. That was so much fun and very Bollywood-esque, which was awesome to see. That dance numbers and big party scenes. I really enjoyed that and thought that was great.
Clearly there's inspiration by Bollywood. Probably one of my favorite scenes is like this random dance number with Kens, with the Kens. There's a lot of licensed music, right? It's not common.
Well, even just made specially for the movie. Like the Dua Lipa song was made for the movie.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I think so.
Gotcha.
Sure.
So it definitely has that feeling of like licensed music that you would hear on the radio versus an atmospheric like Hans Zimmer score. Barbie's associated with a time and place, and a lot of these songs bring those eras back of like 80s like techno dancing music, when you get the 80s techno dancing Barbies, or like the 50s or 60s have more like waltzy music and things like that. So the music really matched the production, and like
Well,
also,
she said one of her inspirations was Singing in the Rain, which is old musicals.
yeah, the set design was fantastic. I mean, there's a scene where it's like the Kens fighting on the beach, and it's all colorful, which is really rare for Hollywood movies. Like seeing fuchsias, like hot pinks, purples, blues, reds.
Well, they ran out of that pink.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
see that?
Right.
They literally ran out of their trademark pink for the Barbie.
It almost felt like an animated movie because of how visually diverse it was.
And I was reading an article about the makeup on it, that they chose, originally they were thinking to go more plastic and make everyone look more plastic, but they steered away from that because they wanted to bring Barbie to life and not make a human plastic, which was really cool, that how much thought went into it. And Margot Robbie did a ton of work with the makeup artists.
Yeah, that's a good transition. I also think another great part was the cast. Margot Robbie as Barbie, on a like superficial level, perfect, like she looked like it's fucking Margot Robbie. And the movie like does a great job of being self-aware of that. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it's really funny.
And I also think Ryan Gosling as Ken was fantastic. Like for me, I know you had your feelings.
You can already hear the sigh coming. I think Ryan Gosling was still cast well. I wouldn't say that he wasn't a good choice. I think he wasn't the perfect fit. I think someone a little younger could have even better. He did seem a little old for the role. I felt like the other Kens seemed a lot more cohesive than him looks wise.
Also, Michael Cera as Alan was just hilarious.
That was really good.
Yeah, and he again great casting in terms of hey, this toy's a little awkward. Fucking Michael Cera. Okay. So lowlights. What didn't work for you?
Well, like I said, Ken, I think he didn't fit in as well. I felt the second half of the movie it had some subplots like we discussed that didn't seem relevant. Or
you felt the second half was a little weaker than the first?
The second half was weaker than the first.
I similarly felt like the first half was literally perfect almost. And the second half, while not bad, it's just not perfect, so maybe a little bit of a step back. So nothing was bad per se. I just think a lot of the themes and ideas that were set up all didn't necessarily tie together neatly by the end, and felt a little loose, if you know what I mean, where certain things were set up and maybe not followed through. One other area I totally forgot to mention is the human characters. So there's these human characters that aren't from the Barbieverse, played by
Will Ferrell, America Ferrara.
Yeah, well, Will Ferrell was the CEO person. I liked him. He was pretty funny. They used him just enough without it getting too improvisy, Will Ferrell-y, oh, look at me.
Yeah, that's fair. It wasn't the elf.
The characters Gloria, who was played by America Ferrera, which awesome name. I think she was End of Watch. Her and her daughter Sasha by Ariana Greenblatt, who was in the movie 65. You haven't seen that?
Oh yeah.
Them two, I don't know why they were there. It just felt like they weren't needed, and by the end, it's just this thing they do with these movies where they always need human. They're too afraid to just have Barbie characters, so they need random humans to normalize it. In the Transformers movies, there's random human characters too. Same problem.
Yeah. Well, they did have to have them as the reason for why she had to go to the real world. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had to go to the real world.
That's a good point. Excuse me. Yeah, that's fair. I just felt that there wasn't much care given to their characters. I think the actors did a good job, but there wasn't much to them. What would we rate it?
Barbie, I said an 8 out of 10.
Nice. That's exactly what I'm landing at too. Yep.
Should I give it a 7?
Why?
So we're different?
No. Give what you think.
I don't know.
No.
I said first half would have been a 10. Second half was a 5.
Oh my god, that's so harsh. That's so harsh.
I'm harsh.
Oh
it's
my god.
Gonna be.
You're saying it went from great to dog shit.
Okay, not total dog shit. Just not.
I mean, 5 isn't dog shit either, but
yeah.
It's your.
So then it's a 7.5. So round up to an 8 because we need whole numbers. So then I give it an 8.
Nice. You got the formula too.
There's my math.
Nice. I'm gonna go with an 8. I think this is a really unique and motivated film in an era where everything feels a little bland and part of a universe. But more importantly than that can be true, but it can be executed badly. I think it was executed well too. I felt like Barbie's character does raise questions on Barbie's role in our society and as a product. Also images of women and just individuality. as a person, what are you defined by? Are you defined by what you wear, what you look like, you know, or are you defined more by like the things you do and things you love? Things I wouldn't necessarily expect in a movie about fucking Barbie. Next up, we have the hotly and highly anticipated Oppenheimer. I mean, honestly, Barbie is too, but I mean, Christopher Nolan movie comes out once every, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And here we have a biographical epic. We saw Oppenheimer in 70mm IMAX. Fucking incredible. And yeah, I just gotta say, this was a heavy movie. It's one of those movies where by the end credits, it was silent in a good way. First of all, it's a 3-hour experience that will assault your senses in a great way. And also, it's certainly a heavy movie that's very relevant now. Very, very relevant. Yeah. Just like Barbie, what's your history with Christopher Nolan movies? Like, have you seen a lot of them?
Interstellar and Inception. I think that's it, honestly.
You haven't seen The Dark Knights, the Batman trilogy? Okay, you haven't seen them. So you said you've seen Inception and Interstellar?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about those.
I remember Dream Within a Dream. The buildings being upside down. A lot of like landscape shot. Interstellar, really enjoyed that one. I like anything with space, science fiction. That's my favorite genre. I remember more landscape shots, honestly. That really sticks out to me. And that sticks out to me especially now as we're talking about Oppenheimer and reflecting on Oppenheimer and seeing more of that carry through.
His style. The style. Christopher Nolan does a great job with scale, I would say. He likes to do things practically, which is a hallmark for him. So in this movie, I believe there's like no CG. Fun fact. Honestly, that like if you kind of think about what Oppenheimer is about, it's about creating the first nuclear bomb, the Trinity 2 project, this massive undertaking under secrecy, very similar to this film. A big 3-hour movie that a lot of people didn't know about. And, you know, breaking the bounds of film technology, like the nuclear technology broke the bounds of nuclear bombs. So a lot of parallels. My relationship with Christopher Nolan, he's one of my favorite directors.
Your favorite director?
No, definitely not my favorite. Definitely great, like top 10 probably. Okay. A lot of their movies have interesting relationship with time. So they often aren't linear. Like Memento is told forwards and backwards until they meet in the middle. The Dark Knight trilogy is probably the most straightforward movies he's made because they're comic book movies. But in Inception, I don't need to say anything. Dream Within Dreams, all that stuff, the time dilation, Interstellar, time dilation, time traveling. The Prestige plays with multiple timelines, and this is no different. So this movie has, I would say, 3 general time periods: the 40s or 30s during World War II, then post World War II, where he was infamously revoked of his security clearance, and then there's a third and final timeline much later, which I don't again want to talk about too much because I don't think a lot of the promotional material does. For a 3-hour epic, what did you feel? Did it grab your attention, for all of the time? Like,
yeah, definitely. Wow. I paid attention the whole time. Did not fall asleep once.
Yeah.
I'm very notorious for falling asleep during movies. The beginning I felt was a little too fast in that it just felt jumpy. I think they were trying to get almost too much in of his background. It did feel like they were in one location and then they jumped to another, and then it just felt a lot of like jumping. I think they were trying
and that is the thing with Nolan movies where a lot of criticisms I've heard are that the exposition can be clunky or a little hard to follow sometimes.
But that was the only part. One character that could have been, for some of her actions, could have been portrayed as, like, you could have left the theater thinking she was not a nice person. She was not good. And the way she was portrayed, though, having depth and really understanding her, you didn't feel that way. Because on paper, what she did was not always good. But because of the way they portrayed it and really showed her as a human, it was Emily Blunt's character. I think that she'll get a lot of praise for that. Set design was really good, too. And cinematography, I really enjoyed it. And the character, like, I know I just keep harping on the character development, but I can't say enough good things about it.
Maybe you're feeling what I'm feeling is that it's a movie with a message and it does a great job delivering it.
Yeah, and I think it poses a lot of interesting topics of, if you knew the consequences, would you build the bomb? And like we talked about that afterwards, and if you knew also how it would be used, but it could save others, is that something that you would account for? Things like that I think are really interesting, that movies that not only get you thinking but also get you thinking about hard topics, that there's no right or wrong answer. And then I think there was such a depth of cast. Every scene, it was like, oh, they're in it. That was amazing seeing everyone.
I actually want to make point about that, and I'm glad you brought it up. A lot of times when movies have a really huge cast of really well-known actors, it can be more distracting than helpful. So in a movie like this, with the all-star cast, I mean, one of the largest of Nolan's, if not like a movie I've seen in the past 10 years, like, I think it actually is very helpful and beneficial to have recognizable actors in a movie like this, because it's a time period from so long ago with so many rapid names thrown at you that really are all scientists, right? By having recognizable actors that have unique like haircuts or certain visual motifs, it makes it easier for us as the audience to keep track of who the fuck is like who and like what's going on. There are a lot of political sides, and it's not just like Germany versus the US and nuking each other. It's really more of an internal struggle in the US political system. A lot of political agendas.
There's also a lot of parallels to the Jesse James movie that we talked, the Assassination of Jesse James.
What about this movie did you feel relates to Assassination of Jesse James?
The layers of, on paper, is Jesse James a good or a bad person? And it dives into that both Oppenheimer and Jesse James are paralleled, in my opinion, for the films, and that they are multifaceted people, that they've done some bad things, but they've also done some good things. And so showing that wide breadth of actions that they've taken, especially with Casey Affleck showing in it, since he's in both of them, I think that really highlighted the similarities.
There isn't like a consensus on like how you look at them. Some people look at Oppenheimer or Jesse James as heroes, like the best of the best. Some people look at them as villains. Nolan does a great job of really deconstructing Oppenheimer as a human, rather than this large historical figure.
Oppenheimer, the film, really highlighted the layers to humans, and that you can change your mind or make decisions based on emotions.
And honestly, for lowlights, I can't really think of many. I have so much to talk about, honestly, about spoilers, that I just want to get to the score and just jump into that. If you're not a fan of politics, or like, it's a very talky movie. This movie is about the nuclear bomb, but it's really about two people talking in a room. More than two, but it's about people talking in a room, and a lot of ideas and personalities conflicting with each other. So it's, I think that's a great part of this movie and fantastic, but I can see that being, kind of a barrier to entry for people if you're not looking for that. Anything for you that you thought didn't necessarily work as well, or just low lights?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said in the beginning, even though we were a little late, I still felt the beginning was a little clunky. Besides that, I don't really have too many lowlights. I think some relationships didn't feel as earned. They felt they could have been, based on people's emotional reactions, they could have dove a little deeper in and shown that more, because I think it just showed having really strong emotional reactions to people without like earning it. And then I think that was it, though. Honestly, I don't have many complaints. It was very good. I give Oppenheimer a 9 out of 10.
Nice. Anything stopping it from getting a 10?
I said at the beginning, it was way too choppy, and when I was watching it, I was like, if the rest of the movie is like this, it's gonna be really bad.
Yeah.
Or hard to understand. So that's just really the beginning, I would say.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of information presented at once at the beginning. Like just fucking like 30 characters. I'm not even joking. Honestly, for me, I definitely would need to see it again, but like I'm leaning on a 10, which I haven't given it in this Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Like this was a very, it's the most Nolan of Nolan movies that uses a lot of his strengths very well together. Like, I think this is actually a very good companion piece to The Prestige, if you ever saw that movie. But in The Prestige, he actually references Tesla, like Nikola Tesla is a character in that movie, and now he finally gets Einstein in this movie. Like, he does a great job of weaving historical figures in a very human way by making their motivations something we can understand. Like, these larger than life like characters are just people that, hey, like, I get horny or I hate that guy, like they are just people too, and sometimes that can get lost in the history books. Well, if you've made it to the end, thank you so much. And if you've seen Barbenheimer, which one was your favorite, and what order would you recommend it in? I would recommend seeing Barbie first and then Oppenheimer, personally.
I would say see Barbie and then see Oppenheimer.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. So yeah, and if you let us know what your thoughts were on the movies, and if you like this video, definitely leave a comment, shoot us a like, all the call to actions, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Like and subscribe.
Thanks. Bye.